a time, in a land far, far away, there was a beautiful young girl living with her wealthy father in a large cottage. They grew up happy, where her father taught her to be gentle and kind, until one day he got sick and passed away. The young girl was adopted by her stepmother, where she lived with her two wicked stepsisters. They forced her to reside in the kitchen, where she cooked, cleaned, and talked to sentient animals. Then this poor girl, who only wanted to marry a prince one day, discovered that she conveniently has a fairy godmother. With her one wish, the girl wishes to be a beautiful princess and makes her way down to her local ball. There she meets the prince of her dreams, and they dance and fall in love in just one night. But the clock strikes 12, and she must make it back to her cottage before her riches turn back into rags. Dashing down the steps, she loses her precious glass slipper. The prince, who is quite the interesting character, decided to keep her shoe, because why would you be able to find her any other way? The next day, he goes on a hunt to find this mysterious girl, having all of the women in the town try on the shoe. Finally, he finds her, the girl of his dreams, and they live happily ever after. Now raise your hands. How many of you know the story of Cinderella? Everyone's hands was raised in this room, and that's because these are the stories that many of us have been raised on throughout our childhood. Tales of magical adventures, knights in shining armor, and damsels in distress. For my passion project, I wanted to investigate how gender, including many of the common stereotypes shown in stories like Cinderella, are portrayed in children's literature. Children's books became an influential part of our modern-day culture with the integration of fairy tales and nursery rhymes in the common lifestyle. In the 19th century, a French author named Charles Perrault, who, yes, he does look like that, laid the groundwork for fairy tales. He derived his work from old folk tales, which were typically culture-specific, honing in on what we now recognize as gender stereotypes. The women were always submissive, beautiful, and entirely out of control of their lives, just waiting for a man to come along and fix them up. Just put a Band-Aid right on that situation. Perrault's impact was massive, paving the path for the Grimm brothers, who are widely known for their influence for Christianity, not liking women too much, and having crows peck out people's eyes. While their stories were often dark, they focused on a main idea called passive women and active men, a concept that is extremely common in both children's literature and many of our occult classics. As I was going through my book collection, I realized how many of the novels that I read on a daily basis unfortunately fit this stereotype. The women in these stories, such as Cinderella and Snow White, are dependent and pious, while the men are always expected to take action and save the world, but with very little emotion behind it. They're not allowed to be scared. Young kids in the 19th century reading these stories caused many of them to accept these roles without any questioning. Women stayed at home, cooking, cleaning, and tending to children, while men were out providing for their families. This is a theme we can see all throughout history, and while it is significantly less present today, these pre-programmed roles still influence many aspects of our society. When I was young, I mainly read stories with female heroines, spending all of my time with my nose in a Dear Dumb Diary, a Junie B. Jones, or maybe a 30-page Cam Jansen chapter book. I always remember thinking growing up, why do boys get to do all the fun stuff? I want to fight a dragon. I want to be a world-famous detective. But unfortunately, this was a major stereotype at the time that men were basically in charge of things that were going on in the world, and while women sat passively and observed. When I went back through all of my old books, 12 out of 100 series that I have in my collection had strong female leads that weren't simply pretty and docile. This is a very unfortunate number. But how does this compare to the way that children's literature is now? For my primary research, I decided to interview a third grade teacher at my old elementary school, Woodrow Wilson Academy. I wanted to better understand the types of books present in elementary school curriculums and how this affects childhood development. Miss Bohm, a third grade teacher with a master's degree in curriculum and instruction at the University of Phoenix, has been teaching young children for nearly 13 years. She's taught kindergarten, first grade, and now third grade at Woodrow. She said that throughout her many years of teaching, she has noticed a shift in the books that she has taught in her classroom. In recent years, they have morphed from not only teaching children about the core virtues, but also about many different cultures, identities, and different life lessons. Ms. Bohm said this has also led to less gender stereotypes in the core knowledge curriculum that she has previously seen in the past. While none of them have outrightly stated, underlying themes of women being dependent and scared and men being the brave and active ones in the stories have always been present. I asked Ms. Bohm if this has led to less gender conflict within the classrooms, as this is a common elementary school occurrence. Girls have cooties, etc. But her answer was kind of mixed. She stated that, "I believe we will always see the impact of gender roles present in the classroom, especially since at these young ages, kids are so influenced by what their parents think. I think the good life lessons in the books we read our students have helped to open their eyes and show them a new path, maybe different from the ones that they're being taught at home. But there's also a large cultural impact that must be dealt with. So why do the books that we show our children matter? Essentially, reading helps develop cognitive skills and emotional intelligence in young children that allow them to be successful all throughout life. Reading helps them to develop, Children are extremely impressionable in their formative years, and everything they see, hear, read, and touch becomes a part of their unique experience that makes them who they are. The books they read create role models that they want to model their behaviors after, and the things they see soon become the things that they see in the world. This is why it is important to push the boundaries on gender stereotypes in children's literature for both boys and girls, as both are extremely unrepresented. I challenge everyone, from the parents of young kids to older siblings, to teach the youngins of our generation that there is no right or wrong way to be who they are. And in the end, I believe that all the children growing up now should be able to choose their own path and build their own castle. Thank you.